As I'm sure you're aware, the visa laws and rules change regularly in Vietnam. And unfortunately, it can be quite difficult to get practical advice. Despite the regular changes, the visa laws are actually very clear. The only discrepancy depends on the relationship that the visa agent has at that time, resulting in different answers and possibilities between different visa agents. Sometimes they are right, of course, but sometimes they're wrong, due to the change of their relationship or the situation at that time for some specific reason. So today we'll take a look at some of the most viable ways to obtain a long-term visa in Vietnam. Option 1 is buying real estate. However, this is a myth. It's not possible to obtain a long-term visa from buying real estate in Vietnam. Option 2 is investing into an existing company. This is an effective strategy for someone who has some capital. They want to invest in the country and also obtain a long-term visa. Something to keep in mind that it's a lot easier if it's already foreign owned. The reason for this is the company will have both the IRC and the ERC. The IRC is essentially a foreign direct investment approval from the government. So already having the IRC makes things a lot faster and smoother. In regards to the minimum amount of capital you can invest into a company to become a shareholder, well, it's actually not black and white, and the authorities can use their discretion. So they would essentially look at your proposed amount and determine if it's sufficient or not. Having said that, different provinces and cities do have different guidelines, and you can contact us for more information depending on the city that you're interested in. We can give you an estimation of the correct investment capital requirements. And if you see any businesses that you're interested in, there is a government portal where you can actually check the code of the company to be able to see what licenses they have, who is the legal representative. We can add it in the link below. So you just copy the name of the company and paste it in the government portal. So as mentioned before, it's a lot easier if it's already a foreign-owned company. Now, if it's a Vietnamese-owned company, then the business must be converted to a foreign-owned company. And if you're doing this, you need to think that the investment capital requirements might increase. That means you need to add additional capital into the company. Furthermore, there are many restricted areas for foreign-owned businesses. In any case, you can ask your trusted lawyer or ask us to determine if the location is suitable for foreign ownership or not. In regards to the time frame for purchasing an existing company, it can usually take between 1.5 and 2 months for all the legal and administrative tasks. And just to summarize all the visas that you can obtain if you've bought a company, the first one is a TRC. Now, since 2019, TRCs are quite difficult to get. The investment capital of the company must be over 3 billion. That's over 128,000. So for most foreign investors, usually it's under 3 billion. And the visa you can obtain with an investment under 3 billion is the investor's visa. The duration of the investment visa can be from 6 months to 1 year, and it is directly correlated with the amount of capital that you put into the company. So the more capital, the higher chance of a long-term visa. And the investment visa can be easily renewed every year. So if you would like to take a look at some businesses for sale, check out our website, it's in the link below, and you can have a look at various listings all over the country.
Another popular option to obtain a long-term visa for Vietnam is to open your own business. Obviously, this option requires you to have a business ID. However, when you consider that Vietnam is a rapidly developing country that is opening itself more and more to the world, there are plenty of business opportunities for you to explore. And maybe this is a good topic for a future video. Opening your own business in Vietnam may seem a bit daunting at first, but in reality it is often less complicated than you may think. Having said that, in the past few years it has become a little more difficult to register and run a foreign-owned business in Vietnam. One of the reasons behind this development may be that the Vietnamese government is trying to separate the serious foreign investors from the foreign investors who basically only open a business in order to obtain an investor's visa. So how did it become more difficult? Well, for starters, the local authorities in some cities and provinces in Vietnam have recently become much stricter when reviewing applications for foreign-owned businesses. Secondly, the Vietnamese government has made the maximum duration of investors' visas directly dependent on the amount of investment. It is fair to say that registering a foreign-owned company in Vietnam is still perfectly possible and in many cases very attractive. However, there are a few important things to consider before you start on your business venture. For example, the investment capital. Apart from some specific fields of business, such as education or tourism, there are normally no black and white minimum capital requirements. So that leaves it dependent almost entirely on the discretionary power of the local authority who is in charge of reviewing your application file. From practical experience, we know that, for example, in the cities of Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, the recommended investment capital for a smooth approval of a foreign-owned project is currently around 15,000 United States dollars, whereas in Da Nang and in Hoi An, that amount is currently already around 43,000 United States dollars. Something else to consider are your visa options, because if you start your own business in Vietnam, then you are entitled to apply for an investment visa. This is actually the same type of visa that we have covered previously as part of investing into an existing business. Of course, you should also consider that there are certain costs involved with registering and with running a business in Vietnam. To give you a rough idea about that, in order to register a foreign-owned company in Vietnam, it will cost you around 1,500 to 2,500 United States dollar. Running it in the leanest way possible will maybe cost you around $150 per month. But then you have a virtual office, no staff, and only the basic services of an accountant. So in practice, you will probably spend a little more each month. For more detailed information, we would invite you to have a look at 2 previous videos that we made. One is specifically about investment capital requirements, and the other one is specifically about the costs of starting a business in Vietnam.
So the next possible option is to obtain a work permit. First up, you'll need a criminal background certificate. If you're applying to be a foreign expert, like a managerial position, you will need a bachelor's degree or higher, or equivalent, and a certificate of at least 3 years of experience working in the trained field, or having a certificate of at least 5 years of experience working in the trained field relevant to the position. One thing to be very careful about is being hired by a shell company. The shell company is only set up for foreigners to obtain a long-term visa, and of course we recommend not to do this. It's very high risk and it goes against the rules and regulations in Vietnam. I've heard from some individuals that they've paid from $1,000 to $3,000 to obtain a fake work permit, but I'm sure there are scenarios where they've paid more or less. Governments are actively cracking down on shell companies for this exact reason, so we highly recommend to stay away from this completely.
Another visa option applies to foreigners who are married with a Vietnamese national. There are 2 options. The first one is to apply for a so-called visa exemption certificate. That certificate is valid for 5 years, which is good. However, it only allows you to stay in Vietnam for a maximum period of 6 months at a time. The second option is to apply for a so-called dependence visa. This visa is valid for 1 year, but, and here comes the good part, you can convert that visa into a dependence TRC, temporary residence card, and that one has a maximum duration of 3 years. Both the visa exemption certificate and the dependence visa for spouses are relatively easy and cost-effective to apply for. In most cases, you can apply for them by yourselves. Keep in mind that there are a few important documents that you will need to provide. Most importantly, your marriage certificate, and secondly, the family book of your Vietnamese spouse.
And there is still no signs of retirement visas or digital nomad visas. However, there is a strong possibility that they will introduce these visas in the future. We specialize in anything to do with business in Vietnam: startup consulting, business formation, businesses for sale, and more. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us or our team, and our contact information is in the description below. Thanks very much. We hope the information was useful, and see you next time.